Hello, I'm Douglas Maddie and welcome to Altered Perceptions. In this video I'm going to be reacting to The Art of Cognitive Blind Spots, a TED Talk. Let's get into the video.
Thank you very much for your attention. As the sign says, my name is Eschen. I'm a magician. Magic has been my hobby for a number of years now. Some people have other hobbies, like stamp collecting or friendship. But mine is magic. I will start with a cheap visual stunt to grab your attention and cover the fact that my act is devoid of any intellectual content. Rivet your focus onto the handkerchief. Now, some of the more astute among you may have realized that a transformation has taken place. It starts off silk, yet it emerges a rayon blend. I am what you might call a sleight of hand magician, which means I manipulate small objects like handkerchiefs or playing cards. Sometimes when people hear this, they tell me that if I practice hard, I'll work my way up to more elaborate stage productions with large objects, large boxes, animals. And to me, that's like telling a violinist, if she practices hard, someday she will be able to play the cello. It's an understandable thing to say, though, because people are not exposed to magic in the same way that they're exposed to music. And therefore, I am very happy to talk to you here today at TEDx Vienna about my enthusiasm for this art form. I am interested in magic because I am fascinated with psychology. I love to learn about how people make inferences about the world, how they draw conclusions and find patterns in information. And in particular, I'm interested in all that can go wrong, how an individual can be led astray when certain cognitive vulnerabilities are exploited. And I think that magic is a great way to explore these themes in a borderline ethical fashion. So to do so, I will do two tricks tonight. The first is frankly horrible. It brings shame upon my family and pushes the word asinine to new frontiers.
So this is Kyle. I watched him a few years ago on TV when he was like a young magician, and he still had this kind of witty sense of humour. It's like a very dry, sarcastic sense of humour. And when I remember watching him when he was younger, and because he was only like, I think he was like 13, 14 years old, and it was just like to see this like essentially child on stage coming out with all these it was just really funny, and he was very crisp. In this performance, because it's more of a talk, it's not so much of a magic performance, and it's not like a talk, it's a combination of the two. So it's trying to perform and give a speech at the same time. So it's not coming across the same way that it would if he was ordinarily performing it. I'm actually interested in the psychology behind magic as well, and the point that he made about that just because you get a bigger prop doesn't make you better. This whole idea that bigger is better isn't necessarily true. It may be true in some cases, but as a general rule of thumb, each area of magic is a legitimate area of magic. And you can do large-scale illusions very badly, and you can do close-up magic very badly, and you can do close-up magic very well, and you can do stage illusions very well. So it really depends on the individual performer and how good they are.
I use it, however, because it illustrates a problem that I think is inherent in a lot of magic, and I want to contrast it to the second trick, which is better in that it brings less shame upon my family. It's the oldest trick in magic at over 2,000 years old, and its primary method are some psychological techniques cultivated by countless magicians over the centuries. So it embodies everything that I love about magic.
It's a bit like watching a comedian trying to talk about stand-up comedy while delivering stand-up comedy. It doesn't work in segments, it only works as a whole act. The moment you take segments out, it doesn't work in the same way because it loses the whole dynamic of the flow of the presentation.
But first, the asinine trick, which requires some props on this table. I will fetch them in my typical flamboyant fashion. 2 sticks of wood. Suspended from each is a length of string, a long one and a short one, because variety is the spice of life. They trade off lengths. Nothing astonishing has happened yet, and yet I can now separate the front ends of the sticks at a 30-degree angle. Now, there is a video of me doing this on YouTube, and someone in the comments wrote, actually, that's not 30 degrees, that's more like 45 degrees. And I sighed in relief because I knew the world's intellectual future was safe. Despite the fact that these sticks are now separated by this gaping chasm, we find, to our delight and surprise, it's a miracle. Although I do sense some people in the audience have their suspicions as to how this might be accomplished. And I thank you for not voicing them, because as you all may know, I'm emotionally unstable. You might think that instead of being connected in the front, they're actually connected in the back. This would happen to be somewhat accurate. I shall rectify the situation. This is emasculating. I can't. The string has been lacerated. I brandish the scissors in the air wildly because I'm young and invincible. I now separate the sticks at a vast distance, yet oddly enough, we find, to our delight and surprise, now you all respect me as a person. Back and forth they go in a monotonous yet strangely amusing fashion. Anything following this would certainly be an anticlimax. However, I will continue, because I'm contractually obligated to fill 12 minutes. A third magic wand sits in my pocket, socially isolated, much like I was for a number of years, until I learned magic and became accepted. These two go back and forth just as before. The nostalgia is overwhelming. But to get the adrenaline levels up in the room, all I do is pull here. Oh, how very whimsical. It's like a lyrical dance of tassels and sticks, a phrase which, oddly enough, I now use on a daily basis. It's the first time that expression has ever been uttered on a TEDx stage. I keep doing this because, as you know, if I had real magic powers, this is what I'd be doing all day.
Yeah, he's a mixture between Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory and, like, over here in Britain we have, like, Jack D as a stand-up comedian. It's kind of like a combination of the two. But as you can see, the way that he's talking here, it's a very scripted, pattered presentation. And because it's commercial what he's doing, you can see the difference in the reaction to the room. It's not just, they're not just applauding the magic trick, they're applauding the presentation of it, because he's giving it his product now.
Lock this image in your eyes, Vienna, because this is the picture-perfect representation of despair. I'm going to conclude now because the overwhelming emotion in this room is one of irritation. I will explain why I think this is a lousy trick. I think it's a lousy trick because at its core, it's just a puzzle. And by that I mean you might know how it's done, you might not know, but either way, you just don't care. It doesn't tell you anything about the world, it doesn't tell you anything about how people think. So with this next trick, I'm hoping to head into that territory. I will hand the props off to a kind stranger who emerges from off stage. Thank you, kind stranger.
I do this trick, and when I do it, I've got a similar kind of scripted routine that I do, and it always goes down well because the boringness and the monotony and the predictableness of the trick, and like he's saying, like it's just a puzzle, like you don't care about it. But if you can take the mick out the fact that what you're doing is absolutely irrelevant and useless, and all that, it becomes ironic and it becomes part of the joke. And I do a rhyme when I perform this trick, just to help with the timing of it so that it keeps interest up. And I use it usually for my second trick. So after I've done like a main trick to open up with, this is the one. Once I've got the room's attention, I then go into this trick because it's kind of like me chatting to the room. It's not so much about the trick itself, it's just them getting to know you and your character and your personality, and to know that they're safe with you on stage and you can lead the room. So it's got nothing to do with the trick. The trick has got to be, in fact, it helps. The trick is unremarkable because it gives you an opportunity to chat to the room and to demonstrate your character and your personality, so that the audience can feel safe and relaxed knowing that you know what you're doing.
This next trick is an example of what is called improvisational magic, where I will do magic with any item called out from the crowd. So it could be like the monitor, my microphone, my tie, or... Oh, who put these cups here? Maybe we should use these. I don't know. We require an examination of the props. You, sir, would you mind just standing up? You don't have to come on stage.
I like the way that Cole just did that. We need an examination of the props. You, sir, examine this. He didn't say, "Oh, can somebody from the audience help me?" Because no, he just went, "You, if you can help." Again, really good leadership. If you ask, "Oh, who would like to pick a card for me?" If you ask a question to the crowd, some people are going to put their hands up. There's going to be uncertainty. You're giving control of the flow of the presentation over to the audience. So it's better not to ask them a question like that and rely on them to lead the interaction. It's more of a case of, "Excuse me, sir, if you could just take this card," or like you're leading. And like as he went to get up, "Oh, you don't have to get up on stage." It's brilliant because he's giving great leadership. So the fact that he's kept it all smooth and nice and moving, and he's directing the person. So when you've got a spectator or anyone else helping out with the trick, it's very important to direct them clearly with a lot of clarity and direction, and in a cool, calm way, as opposed to leaving it up to the audience to decide.
Please look at these. Make sure there are no secret compartments or hidden objects. You can clank them together if you want. Although I will warn you, the amount of noise you make is directly proportional to the audience's antagonism toward you. But just to take a look at those cups, I will set some context. In 1999, two psychologists, Daniel Simons and Christopher Charbas, ran a fascinating experiment that actually inspired this presentation. They had a video of two teams playing basketball, and they asked subjects to watch it and count the times the basketball was passed between teammates. During this whole process, an individual dressed as a gorilla walks into the fray, beats its chest, and then exits off screen. Amazingly, about half of the viewers were so fixated on tracking the basketball's motion, they missed the gorilla entirely. And this is a phenomenon called inattentional blindness, and it is a blind spot not of vision, but of perception and awareness. You can be looking right at something and miss it entirely because you only have limited cognitive bandwidth at any given moment. So you focus in on what's important and you filter out the extraneous. And when I heard this as a magician, it really resonated with me. Because my job is to make you confuse what is important and what is extraneous. My job, in a nutshell, is to make you filter out the wrong things. So I will move the table center stage, retrieve the props. Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause for the gentleman for helping.
Yeah, and also, as he said, like a round of applause for helping out. So again, it's giving positive feedback to the behaviours that you want, so that then if he does ask somebody else in the audience to help out, they're going to get a round of applause and they feel accommodated and like there's a reward for doing it. I know it's very basic, but this is important because if you forget to acknowledge gratitude for the person that's helping create the performance, then it's not just the person that will be kind of like, oh, why didn't you thank me? I kind of helped out. But the whole room will see how you treat an individual and how you treat them as individual audience members, and that is how they act as a group. And that influences how they act as a group. This other thing that he's saying about with the experiment, I think I might have said it before on the channel. If not, I'm going to be talking about it again in the future with the guy coming on as the gorilla, and people are so busy focused on the basketball is a very important point. And like he said, it's all about perception, which is why our channel's called Alt Perceptions, because you can only focus your attention in certain areas. And I disagree with him on the sense that it's confusion, because a common term in magic is confusion isn't magic. It's more about how you're directing attention. If you confuse people, they don't understand it. You don't need a grey area. If anything, you need it more black and white, and you just need them focusing on the areas that to pay attention to and keep them distracted from what you don't want them to see.
Because I don't do the magic, we do the magic. A few more props are required. We have 2 red balls and a pen. These are made of compressible sponge rubber. Kind of fun. But they don't stay around for long because all I do is condescendingly wave the pen over the ball, and we find that it dissolves. It's gone. I'm just being theatrical.
He's doing this well, it's just that it's very unusual the way that he's got this laid out. The table is very low down. Like, ordinarily you'd have it a bit higher up, so I don't understand why his table's so low, because he's really got to hench over and bend over like that, so he's doing this. It doesn't look as good, whereas if the table was a bit higher, it'd be more kind of, it'd be framed better. He's using sponge balls, which again isn't the kind of prop you would ordinarily use for the cups and balls, although, you know, if he does manipulations with that better, that's cool. But usually the balls would be a lot harder. And he's not using a magic wand, so as a substitute for a magic wand, he's got like a magic marker or something. So he's got, and again, the props themselves, they don't fit with each other, because ordinarily you would have a magic wand with those cups. I think if he's going to use a pen, he's going to use sponge balls and all that, I'd have less magic-y looking cups.
That point. Next ball disappears in full view, and then it jumps back to beneath the cups.
See how his pen rolled on the floor there, and he had to bend down to pick it up. So that's a mistake that happened. Now there's so much to analyse just in that. He bent down, he just picked it up and put it back on the table. Right, firstly, it shouldn't have gone on the floor. So when I used to do the cups and balls, around the perimeter of the table, I had like a bit of plastic. So if one of the balls ever rolled off or a pen rolled down, then, or just a little bit of a ledge, it doesn't need to be much. So it prevents things from falling off the table, because things can, like when the balls roll and the pen rolls and all that kind of stuff, it keeps it all within the performance area. So even if it does roll or get out, it's still within, it doesn't fall off the table. So that's one thing. You could have a bit of wood around the edge of the table just to make sure that it's more of a tray. The other thing was he didn't sort of like get disheartened by it, go, oh whoops, I've dropped the pen, and pick it up or make a thing out of it. He just casually picked it up as part of the performance. And because he's practiced everything else so nicely, he could still do da 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 da, pick up, and it didn't interfere with the pattern of the performance and the rhythm of the performance.
I thought he did it on purpose.
All right.
I thought he did it on purpose to grab something back there or something.
Or James might know more about magic than I do, and he was secretly loading something, which may be true.
That's what I thought he did it for, but it might have, yeah.
But it's interesting that. It's interesting because this is why we have people on the show. This is why we have people. James just made an observation there. That's what a layman would think. That's what a normal person would think, because they don't trust the magician, and they think that they can't make, that every opportunity or this little mistake is a reason to load something or to, you know, to set something up for a trick. So that's very interesting. That's why we have layman on the show, because it's more important about what the audience think as opposed to what I say as a magician.
And now a number of rapid effects.
And James may be true, because just the way that he's just wiping fluff off the table and being very particular and pedantic, so that may be true. There may be some reason as to why he's doing that. There's a trick that I do with a card where I show the card, put it on the table, and then turn it over and it's another card. And there's a little thing that you can do is just by pretending to wipe the table, it creates enough time distortion for the effect to occur. So there's little subtleties as to why people do this. So yeah, that may be true.
In tight succession, to up my miracle to verbiage ratio, I will attempt to fracture your focus across this confined arena. First, we will pocket the sponges, and I will make the ball return to the cup. Not that one, this one over here. I can make this one appear too. Just an unnecessary flamboyant little tap is all it takes for the ball to jump back. And now you're all privy to one of the most sacred moments in a young sponge's life, the point in which it first undergoes mitosis. Watch the ball as it severs into two identical copies, fiber by fiber, strand by strand. And now, one last feat before the grand finale. I'll put one ball in each hand. Sir, would you mind saying which hand you like more, A or B? A. Thank you for not hesitating. Some people hesitate, as if this is a decision of any consequence whatsoever. You say A, the ball melts away like this, and when you watch down here, the balls reconvene up here, leaving us just back where we started. Now, the question you should be asking yourself at this point is, what does this have to do with inattentional blindness? What does this have to do with looking directly at something and missing blatant activity? And the answer to that is that these sponges are not the stars of this trick. They serve the same function as the basketball in the gorilla study. They were just here to draw the gaze. The real purpose of this trick was to do something far bolder, because beneath these cups thoroughly scrutinized, cups that have never left your view, we find citrus fruit. Not one, not two, but three citrus fruit, rock-solid limes with the density of diamonds. Thank you very much.
The density of diamonds, I doubt that. So that was a really good analogy. Is it analogy, simile, metaphor? I don't know what the word is, but it's one of them. So that was a really good comparison in the sense that, looking at the basketball and missing the gorilla, and looking at the sponge balls and missing the fruit. I wish I'd have come up with that myself. That's a really good, because what he's done on there, it's not just doing a magic trick. He's told you a reason as to why he's doing this. He says, look, this is how you get fooled, and this is how I'm going to fool you. Now I'm going to go through that. And so when the trick works on the people that it does work for, then it's sort of like, even when you tell them how it's done, they still don't know how it's done. And the great thing about the cups and balls, because essentially you're just putting the balls, the fruit, all that under the cup when people aren't looking, and the cups and balls relies on the misdirection of attention. So the whole way that he structured that little performance there, that act, is very good.
I'm not done. I have an inspirational little ending message. If you were to Google how to do the cups and balls and lime trick, the explanation you would receive would go something like this. When people are not paying attention, put the limes underneath the cups. That's it. That's how magic survives in the age of Google. Because there is no secret, but the great secret, which is we have gaping blind spots, far bigger than our intuition would suggest. And to me, that is a beautiful idea, and one that animates my interest in this art. And it's been a pleasure to share it with you this evening. Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed that presentation by Carl. It's very to the point, very professional, and the magic was really good, and it was relevant, and it demonstrated the meaning, and that even when you know how a secret is done to a trick, that it doesn't change the fact that it can fool you, and that a good performer is a good performer no matter what they're performing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll be notified of our latest videos.